Tell me, are you ready to find your weird way? Weird was a concept that was spoken of long ago. It meant fate, it meant destiny, it meant your path in life. I'm your host, Dean Bentley, and I am here to explore how you can connect to your own path in life, to know the essence of your own soul, to connect to that single spark that lives within the deepest recesses of your being that says, "This is why I am here," to go beyond the limitations, the constrictions of the modern world, and open you to the possibilities and the potentiality of what is possible within this world. Join me as we dive deep on the Wyrd Way. There is something that happens when you learn to hold the tension of life. This is something that is so important. And what I mean by this is your ability to hold opposing truths. Now, when we come into the New Age spiritual community, people think that when you're aligned, it means that you're going to be successful, that you're going to have everything you want. And when you don't have that, it can mean that you are unaligned or something is wrong. Now, this is a trap, and I'm going to dive into this because it's a conversation that needs to happen and something that if you're someone who constantly questions, are they on the right path? Are they doing the right thing? And you're trying to get it right, this conversation is for you. Welcome back to the Wyrd Way podcast. I'm Dean Bentley. I've been off for a few weeks as I've had a retreat and a few other pieces that have been landing in my world. I've moved into this beautiful cabin in the woods, and now I'm coming back into the creative flow. So, this experience, if you're someone who's creating or even just trying to live an aligned life, and you're beginning to notice that there's areas of your life that aren't aligned, or you question, or they're not perfect, and what I mean by that is maybe held to the ideal standard of what you have for yourself or for what you believe it means to be spiritual, for what it means to be who you think you should be. And what this does is create a lot of dissonance between who you are and who you think you should be. This is a big thing because when that gap gets really, really big, what happens is there's unintegrated shadow and unintegrated parts of yourself that are actually calling out for attention. And this is why it's so important to be able to hold the tension, the moments in between where it's actually the substance of life. And these opposing forces, when you can be with them rather than fight in one way or the other, will actually create more openness, more connection, and more life force, polarity, attraction. All of these forces exist within this field where opposites exist. They exist for a reason, and this is because you're here to experience the full range of the human experience. And when you're trying to limit it to one side of the coin or one facet of the human world, whether that's only experience the joy, the pleasure, the abundance, well, what it does is disowns a lot of the other side of the human experience. In the alchemical tradition, what we're actually trying to do is integrate both opposites. This is called the sacred marriage, the union of opposites. And this ultimately is what we're trying to do within ourselves. When we can hold that tension, the opposites, it creates more ability to be in life. And it also helps us integrate the parts of ourselves that we're refusing to see. And this can come up in the finances, this can come up in relationship. There's so many areas where when we're trying to hold their vision to be a certain way and reality is showing us something different, well, we can try and force it more and more. And what happens within the energetic system is we're holding energy to use that energy to keep that vision alive. So if you're holden, if you're really tense, if there's a rigidity to your system, you actually don't have access to your full life force. There's been elements that are opposing each other because you're like, it needs to be like this. And to hold that energy, you're using your own. And so, what happens when we open to the actual experience that is before us, when we can let go of some of that rigidity and open to life as it is? And this may be uncomfortable, especially if you're in an experience that your ego or your identity says, I don't want this. I'm better than this. I shouldn't be experiencing this. I have done all the work, all the manifestation, all the visualization. Surely I should be living in a very different reality than to what is shown me here. Well, the truth of the matter is that the reality that you're in is the reality that you're in. And change can only occur when we come into acceptance and relationship to the current experience. When we're waiting for the next experience or when we're holding out for the next vision, we don't have a relationship with what is. Now, our relationship to the present moment, the relationship to what is here, is what allows us to change because we allow that experience the reality that is into our being, into our field, and through that we can transmute it. But when we're holding it away, we cannot. Because we disown the relationship, we disown the experience, we cannot impact it. So if you're in an experience which you do not like right now and you have a level of resistance in your system, it is completely normal. And yet that resistance is often the component that is keeping you from creating change. When you begin to build a relationship with it, and this is one of the traps where we can go into bypassing, where we're trying to visualize what wants to happen, which is important, but we're not accepting another very important component, which is the current reality. To allow that into our being, to surrender to that, to open to it and say, this too is welcome, this part of the human experience, because on a higher level, you're a soul that came down to experience it. And though your ego is attached to certain ways of what that should be, your soul has a very different agenda, which may go against your ego construct. It may go against it. And while you're resisting reality, because our soul is guiding us, our higher self, and that's why it puts us in these positions that even though from an egoic level we may not like, when we're resisting that, it creates more distortion, it creates more problems because that experience then needs to get bigger and bigger so that we can welcome it into our world. Because as you resist, as you fight it, well, puts more energy into that. And from that place, we can actually not go into creator consciousness because we're not aware of what we're creating from. We don't have a solid foundation of what is right now. This is why the tower moment in tarot often occurs. I recently did a podcast on Icarus and it really spoke into this, but there's cracks within the foundation that we're trying to build with upon. And as that cracks get louder and louder or bigger and bigger, well, they're not going to work. So what happens is there's a fall, there's a descent into the current reality. When we talk about descent work or grounding or building a relationship to what is, this is often because we're being asked to ground into the current reality, which may be uncomfortable. Our ego is like, no, I'm so much better than this. I've done all of this. I've done, why is this here? Why am I struggling in this way? This is why we need to be able to hold the tension of opposites because this expands the ego's range. It expands the sense of self to acknowledge the fullness of your human. And instead of holding yourself in a rigid identity, you have more fluidity, you have more ability to be in the multidimensionality of self, which allows you to create because there's a lot of expressed life force in that moment that can be used for creation, can be used to move towards your goals, can be used to create a different reality. But until you allow the current reality to be accepted, to be experienced, you cannot move because that level of resistance is keeping you from this very moment. So, how do we go about accepting and holding the tension of opposites, and where do I see this showing up? So firstly, I was having a conversation with a very dear friend of mine, and we're speaking about this from an entrepreneurial sense of believing, is there a sense of disconnect that is occurring because certain aspects or visions of our goal haven't been reached? And what I shared with him at the time was this is the tension of opposites. This is the ability to build trust and faith because a lot of us have a very critical mind, especially in the Western world. This is part of our conditioning that tells us if we're not getting the results we want, well, maybe we're doing it wrong. Now, there's a very real aspect of this where you do need to consider this fact because if you haven't and you're just blindly continuing on, and a little snippet I've shared on this podcast before is that there's Aboriginal elders that had been doing rituals for decades. And one of the questions they would still ask throughout the ritual is, are we going the right way? An important check because without this, we can continue blindly going without a confirmation that we're going the right way. But what happens on an energetic level is we're moving towards something and we're constantly questioning, am I doing it right? Am I going the right way? Oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong. It creates a lot of hesitation within the energetic field, and that is felt on every level when you are questioning, oh, am I doing it right? And you're looking for an external sense of validation, when you're looking for something outside of you to tell you that, rather than trusting and having faith that your energetic current, your path is defined and determined and you're going the way that you need to, when you don't have that, that hesitation creates a distortion, which even if you're doing the right thing, there's a hesitation from your spirit, from your soul that isn't completely landed. And so your transmission is weakened, your ability to be fully expressed is weakened because you're not allowing yourself. And that is aspect of the problem because when we're talking about a lot of this stuff on the quantum level, it's the energetic transmission which allows you to create a different reality. And that has to be felt. You cannot do that when there's that hesitation within your system. So, one of the pieces that you need to do is begin to get to know that aspect of yourself. Why do you hesitate? What are you afraid of? Where does that fear live within your body? Maybe you're afraid of judgment. Maybe you're afraid of leaving behind what you know. Maybe there is a sense of death in that if you go all in. And this is why we need that relationship with death and this opposites, because as you create your new life, as you build something that you truly desire, there is components of yourself that must die. And this is confronting when we really consider that everything you know about yourself is going to disappear at some point in time. Your ego gets terrified of that. This is a protective and survival mechanism. So we need to build a relationship with that where we may be confronted with everything you know may be left behind. And that's what that hesitation can be. It's not saying that this will occur. And let me just be really stern in that. Just because you are creating something new doesn't mean everything has to die, but it has to being allowed what needs to die can die. This is important when there's this holding of like, oh, I just really want to keep that. There's a level of control that isn't allowing the fullness of trust, of life, of your spirit, of your soul to move forward. And that holding is something that will impact you because there's a lot of life force energy held in that situation. So when you allow that to be let go and you moved forward with commitment, with devotion, with dedication, it opens a pathway before you because you're moving in trust, you're moving in faith, and you're moving with the fullness of yourself, admitting itself into the world. And that is such an important thing because when we're in that limbo, it's felt. And though we may need stages of that to question, what are we doing? Why are we going this way? Am I going the right way? All powerful and beautiful questions. When we're moving, we want to move with the fullness of our being. And why so many people don't is there's a protective mechanism at play here where they're trying to stay safe when they hold back a little bit. And this is more on a mental level, on a spiritual level, where there's a little bit of holding of dissociation. Their awareness is not fully in themselves. The holding back creates a level of protection because then if they fail or if the result they want isn't achieved, they can say, well, I gave it my best, but on a energetic level, they weren't fully committed. And this is the problem because to go fully in means there's no safety net. It means that you're not holding back. And this isn't to say you need to invest all your money and have no background or no safety or no. It means on an energetic level, when you're doing something, the fullness of yourself is actually there. It's in the moment, it's in the transmission, it's transmitting itself to the world. And that is needed. You need that because this is what creates the felt sense that can ripple into the field and allow people to be attracted, allow all the things that you desire to be in resonance with you. Because when you think of that life that you fully live, well, I'm sure that there's a level of presence and commitment and intent to what you're creating. And that comes when you fully step into life because that holding is the safety net. It's the thing that says, well, if I'm just a little bit out here, I can have an excuse because we don't want to deal with the failure of not getting what we want, to feel the grief of giving everything to anything and it not working the way we wanted it. Because that is heartbreak. And that's what most of us have experienced at some point. This is some of our wounding, our trauma, our pains where we've given our heart, whether it was to our parents or a relationship, and there's been a break in that, or there's been a failure, or it's not come out the way that we wanted and it's broken us on some level. And that is painful. It hurts us, and we no longer know how to open again because it is terrifying to be in that experience where it's just like the world rips us open and there's nothing you can do. You admit your powerlessness, you admit the grief of love, you admit that though there was such beauty, it hurt you in a way that you didn't even know you could be hurt. And this is why healing must occur. This is the opening to the tension of opposites, because with love comes grief, because with desire comes longing and sadness of not having it. And we need to open to all of it, not just the one sided experience. When we only have one part of the experience, we close off from the fullness, and in the closing, we close ourselves. Because if you cannot feel that grief of the failure, you cannot feel the love of commitment and devotion that comes in the meeting of that. And this is the challenge for all of us in the modern time is to how to open to the fullness. And from a lot of you, that will be open into the grief, to open into the emotions that you haven't want to express because they haven't had space, they haven't felt safe, they haven't been given permission to actually be felt. For some, this may be anger, rage, sadness, grief. For others, it may be joy because you didn't know that joy was welcome because you got told that it wasn't as a child, that it was too much, too, too much for those around you. And it wasn't their fault. They got taught the same thing. And though that hurt you, you need to be the one who changes that, who decides that a different way is possible. Because this is what you're here to do. This is why you're receiving this transmission, because you are the one who's here to create change. And if you don't like that, that is part of your work. To meet the victim inside of you that says, I don't want to be the one. Meet that part of you. Meet the child who is still hurting because again, this is holding the tension of opposites. It's learning to grieve with that part of you, to grieve the death, the hurt, the parts of you that were not seen, that were not loved, that didn't know any better, to actually be in grief with them, to let their experience exist within your being. Because through this, through opening to that world, you open your world to everything, to the fullness of this life, to this experience where you can go beyond what you ever known. And this creates a level of non-resistance within your being, which allows more vitality, more richness, more experience into your world, because that is what is craved by your being. It doesn't just want one dimension. And a lot of people on this spiritual path end up in a one-dimensional spiritual box. I'm always spiritual. I'm not allowing the other pieces. I'm holding myself away from my humanity. It doesn't work. You need to accept both. The humanity, the spiritual, it exists within you. It exists, and all of it is the same. Your humanity is spiritual. Your spirituality is your humanness. It's part of the experience. And instead of dividing these two, separating these two as you're only being spiritual when you're meditating or doing the breath work or the medicine, maybe the spirituality is in the everyday life, the cleaning of your home, the relationships, all the aspects that you have tried to escape through your spirituality. And it's actually the landing of that to embrace the fullness and being able to flow between these polarities, to have movement between, because this is what allows you to continue to open, to expand your capacity. It's not closing off from one aspect or the other, it's continuing to open to it all. And if you can feel the rigidity within your system that says, I can't experience that, or I can't accept this current experience within my life, whether it's the current relationship you have, the current financial situation, the current work, the current challenges within your own psyche, well, there's a level of resistance that is stopping you from having the full human experience, because everything you want is actually already here. The richness you desire, the openness, the connection. And it's not through force, forcing yourself into another reality. It's through allowing the current reality to bloom and trusting wherever that reality leads you, the blooming is where you're meant to go. And that requires tending. It requires meeting what is here. And this can be a challenge. This is one of the biggest challenges, to meet what is here, because it's easy to think, well, it's out there. It's out there somewhere else. Yet there is a reason that you're here. And whatever that reason is, because you have a lesson, because it's here to serve the continuation of your soul, the growth of what you're here for, this is part of why you came here. And you have to open to it. You have to accept, this is where I start from. Whatever the experience, whether that's been trauma, whether it's been pain, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. It doesn't mean you don't deny, or that you deny that it was terrible, that it should not have happened. No, if it was bad, if it was traumatizing, if it was some of the darkest shit you can imagine, that should not have happened. And if it has, that level of acceptance, of opening to that, and from that beginning to move forward, that is what's going to allow you such range and such possibility within this life, because you realize it doesn't have to be one dimensional. It means that you can experience such fullness within this present moment. And it exists right here, right now. And all you need to do is open to it. Now, that can be a whole lot. That can be a whole lot. And I'm going to talk a lot more on that over the coming episodes, of how you can meet the current experience of life, how you can find that opening that is going to open your heart, because that is what we're here for. We're not here to create the perfect ideal life. At least I'm not. And when I say that, I want to be clear in what I mean, because what I mean by that is a conditioned idea of perfection, of how it should look, how it should be, the white walls, all the fancy picket fences, all the things you've got told you should want. I mean that perfection. And what I mean by open into what else is the beauty and the richness that your soul, that your spirit, that your heart actually longs for, where there's a depth of connection, where there's an intimacy to this world, where there's a richness all around you, and you propagate that through your being. You regenerate the world around you with your care, with your love, and you are a transmission of what you want to see in the world. And through that, you continue to heal and you continue to open, and you realize that who you are is so fucking incredible, that that's all you've ever needed to be. And the more permission and the more grace you give that, the more beauty that comes into this world. And it's no longer about fixing yourself or making yourself better or trying to be perfect and have it all worked out. It's by fully inhabiting this human life in the best way you know how and to the fullness of your capacity, because this is what is truly going to serve humanity and truly serve yourself. And the one and the other are the same. And that's something I want you to remember. If you're looking at the world and you're seeing it in all the ways it is right now, and you're being like, what can you do? Tend to your own garden, tend to yourself, grow your capacity, heal the parts of you that need healing so you have more capacity for the others around you. So you can love deeper, you can share more, you can bring your mission and your passion to this world so it can serve and support others as well. Because this is so, so needed, and your heart and your soul knows exactly what it's doing. We don't need to know the whole cosmic plan. We just need to show up for what we're here to do, to share that in this world, and let that be enough. Because so much of the I need to do more stems from that wound of not enoughness. And that's just a continuation of the same pattern and programming that we are letting go of, because you don't need that. You are enough. You are enough as you are. Who you are is exactly who you need to be, and where you are is exactly where you need to be, because the not enoughness, it's done. We're done with that reality where we're judging ourselves for not doing enough, for not being more, or not having it all worked out. We are done. That reality is done, and let it be done. Accept you are enough, and that where you are is exactly where you need to be. And you get to build from here. You get to create and co create the reality that we are all dreaming of, that you are dreaming of for your own heart and for the hearts of those around you. And you get to continue to bring that to life. And this is the beauty of this work and this world. And this is what you get to do. So, Weird Ways, this is welcome back. It feels like we got some more intensity coming with this new iteration. I don't even know if we're calling it a season anymore. The next iteration of the Wyrd Way. Such a pleasure to be back. For those of you who do want to go deeper into this, I've opened up free mentorship positions for those who want to deepen into this work, who need support, who want to know how they can open to life more and more and have someone who can guide them in that. This isn't to be someone who does it for you. This is to be a guide. This is the importance of my work. I know that we need people around us to actually support us to continue along this path, to have trust, to have faith that we are on the right path, that we are doing what we need to do to support ourselves and those around us. So if you're interested in that, send me a message, click on the link in the show notes to connect with me, whether that's on Instagram or another place, and send me a message. Tell me what's happening and let's connect, because this work is for you, and so that we can all co create it together, a better world, a better place, and more open hearts. For those of you who are interested in some more in person work, I finished up the Raw retreat, which was a beautiful men's retreat a few weeks ago. One of the reasons I haven't been on the podcast as much. And we've got another one happening in 6 months. It's another men's retreat. And in about a year's time, we are going to do a co-gendered retreat as well. I'll link all of that in the show notes. So if you're interested in that, it's a good time to get in, because if you're someone who's like, oh, I'll do it one day, know that that's often an excuse that we have again and again. We tell ourselves, oh, I'll do it then. And then it comes a lot quicker. then we fought and we realized we haven't done what we needed or wanted to do. That's been a big process for myself coming um, into where I am right now and realizing there's been fins on the back burner that I haven't committed to. I own it and I'm learning to say yes to them more immediately and more directly so that I continue to be in service to myself and this world and do the things that really fill my own heart. So if that's you, click it, check out the link. And come join us another few beautiful days on the land around like minded people so that we can deepen into ourselves and our hearts. I really look forward to seeing how this episode lands. It felt like a really raw one, and I'd love to continue these conversations. I got some really beautiful messages the other day from people about how the Wyrd Way has been landing for them, what they've received, and I love receiving that. So I'd love to continue these conversations in the comments or the sharing. Please promote this, continue to share this podcast. It really goes a long way in supporting this work and allowing these messages to reach the people that needs to reach. So if there's someone you think of that needs to hear this as well, send it their way so it lands for them as well. Wyrd Ways, have a beautiful day. I'll see you soon.